So what is actually getting between you and where you want to be? This can be goals. This can be maybe a big picture dream or idea that you had. This can be maybe just some kind of emotional sense of safety or sense of self, right? It can be so many different things. But what is the big picture principle which is getting between where you are now and where you want to go? Now, the answer is probably going to be something which might be a little bit counterintuitive, but that's why we're here, okay? So my name's Aaron. I run this YouTube channel called Unconscious Flow, which is fusing all of the best stuff that I learned around the unconscious mind, fusing that with the more kind of traditional conscious coaching, putting that together so that we find a balance of flow that's right for you and not something which is a prescription made from other people. So I'm not going to leave this hook any bigger than it needs to be. The hidden art of knowing when to take accountability and responsibility and knowing not to. That is one of the key things which gets you from being stuck in a worldview which isn't really useful to you, being stuck in, and this can be not just internal, but also external, stuck in a relationship you don't like, stuck in a career you don't like, stuck working around people that you don't like in a way that you don't like. So this topic was inspired by me by one of the clients that I'm coaching right now. Successful guy, travels around, really good job, respected in what you would call mainstream community. There's something that he reached out to me about, a question that he had, which unbeknownst to him sparked this idea. And what that was he's actually going through a breakup, something that we talked about. And it's actually around setting his own internal boundaries and setting his own internal boundaries so that it affected the external, right? And this is just a reaction to that, basically, that the breakup was what happened as a reaction to that. Whereas before, maybe he might have stayed in that relationship a little bit longer. So he's going through a breakup, right? Because things just didn't work out in the way that he wanted them to. And he was, brave enough to actually go out and say that and actually go after what he wants and go after and look for somebody that he genuinely likes and not just settling. But this question came up where he asked me like, oh, wow, I'm really finally realizing what you're saying, which is I don't have to take accountability and responsibility for this other person I was in a relationship with. Now, how does this link to what I just said around getting you from where you are right now to where you want to go, right? Because in the past, before we started working together, he would have taken responsibility of that because he had like all this kind of like conditioning from certain dating communities, right? They're called the pickup communities, around how the man has to be responsible to everything. And if there's something that goes wrong in a relationship or dating, then it's always your fault and you can always get better and all this kind of stuff, right? Picked up loads and loads of really harmful conditioning, and harmful when I say harmful to himself and harmful to the reality that he's trying to create, okay? Now, when it comes to all that kind of stuff, why is taking responsibility and accountability actually holding somebody back in a broader perspective, so not just dating and relationships, okay? Well, if you take responsibility for something that is outside your sphere of influence, let's say outside of your ability to control. So let's say you are doing a job, right? And that job is hindered by your boss, who's like a real big kind of like stereotypical middle manager, okay? And that middle manager is the one who takes the shots and kind of like says, you have to correct this, you have to do this, whilst not really doing much himself or herself. And because of that, you kind of get passed up for a promotion because you just had to follow what your manager said in order to keep him happy, right? And because of that, the project kind of failed, right? If you take all of the responsibility on your shoulders, all of the accountability on your shoulders, right, for that thing happening, that is going to keep you stuck in a worldview which is inherently disempowering. Under the guise that it is empowering because you're taking responsibility, you're taking accountability, what could be going wrong? Well, when you take accountability and responsibility for something outside of you, you cannot actually take responsibility and accountability for that. So it's not about like, oh, yes, you can, or the Nike, you can do it, right? It's about what's actually genuinely possible. You can't control what another person thinks. You can't control what another person feels. You definitely can't control what they were brought up in, the culture they were brought up in, the parents that raised them, the friends they had, the way that they kind of operated and conducted themselves that have led to this moment right now. So one of my big time mentors, Sister Kante Kema, Sasana Dipika, which was a mentor who I lived with. She was a monk, a Buddhist nun, who, depending on which kind of enlightenment pathway you're following, whether it be Theravada or the other two kind of main ones, Vajrayana and Mahayana, right? She was enlightened in the discipline that she was studying in. She always talked about karma a lot, and karma is action, reaction, to put it really simply. So somebody has a certain karma coming with them. Now, you can also replace this with just life story. They have a certain life story that comes with them, which informs their ego systems, which is like, I want this, so I'm going to take this. Their belief systems, their thought systems. If they're more advanced, I guess they're awareness-based systems, right? That's something that I got from my other mentor, Kim Barter, who's a world-renowned psychotherapist, right? All these different types of systems. So they have so much complexity in them, of which you are just an external stimulus, which is inherently colored by their internal world, because internally they're going to perceive you differently based on how they were raised, right? It's like, for instance, if somebody's racist and they look at me, and they see someone who's brown skin, who's half Latino, got a bit of Turkish in him, got a bit of Irish, I've got a bit of everything in me. Their worldview of me or their perception of me is going to be colored by internalized racism, right? Whereas somebody who isn't like that is going to see me completely differently. Now, that's a very extreme example, okay? But what I'm trying to get you to understand here is how projections work. So I'm going to link the video that I have on projections in the comments below, because it's really, really important for your own shadow work practice, which is what you're here for. You're here for being able to actually do unconscious work on yourself, so you can actually release those beliefs properly and not just be a victim of them. So people have all of these things that are bubbling under the surface, right? So to bring back the example of my client who'd just been through a breakup, or is going through a breakup and handling it really, really well, and actually is kind of going to come out much, much stronger from this, he realized that. He was like, wow, she was getting angry because he had absolutely no problem, helping her out, paying for her stuff, all that kind of thing, just because, they were in a relationship, and she was trying to get on her feet with business, all this kind of stuff. And he wasn't helping her out of guilt. He was helping out of genuine inspiration, which is totally different because of the place it's coming from. But she colored that in a way where she kind of felt disempowered from that. Like he was looking down on her for doing that when he didn't at all. Before, he would have taken that as his accountability, his responsibility. Now, how does that look? Oh, she says this thing about me, therefore it must mean this thing about me. But here, he was able to see how this was actually her projection of the situation. And it's her own baggage. And he doesn't need to take accountability for that other person's baggage. He can actually just take a step back and distance himself and have compassion for that person and have love for that person, but not take any of the accountability and responsibility onto him. So this is how you can kind of supercharge breakups. This is how you can supercharge relationships too, right? Because when you stop taking on the baggage and the accountability and responsibility for how another person feels or thinks or where they are in life, you can actually genuinely see that person much better for who they are, right? Which leads to better connections, and it leads to a much more effortless ease of how to kind of conduct yourself in a social way. Now, when it comes to the broad point I was making around the thing that's holding you back from where you are to where you want to go, right, is, are you taking responsibility for something which is not your place to take responsibility for? Okay. If the answer is yes, then you know exactly what to do. You go to my projection video, I teach you how to re-own projections. And from that, you also get to see how, oh, wait, I don't have to take responsibility for that. I can actually re-own the fact that this is either my stuff or this is not the stuff that's mine, right? And I can go about and actually live an empowered life rather than under this fake kind of trap of being empowered. Like, oh yeah, that's me, and I have to take care of my friend, and I have to do this, and I have to do that, right? You can if you want to, but there's no inherent responsibility or accountability for doing that, okay? And how this stops your progress long term is it makes you put a lot of effort and a lot of time into things which are just bottomless pits of energy, like trying to change what another person thinks about you, bottomless pit of energy, trying to make someone have a better life, right? First of all, there's a lot of presumptions in that you actually know what's best for this other person. But let's say you do, right? It's also very presumptuous that this other person wants to hear you say that, right? They might not. But it's also, in the most selfish of ways, a bottomless pit which you can never make somebody do something. There's this old, saying in English, which is, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. That's the most you can do right now, okay? And if you are constantly using your energy to try and force this horse to drink when it doesn't want to, suddenly you end up at the end of the day where you're both tired, you're both exhausted, and the things that you were supposed to do that day, to continue this metaphor, are not done. So it's actually a lot of dead energy, time, and awareness which is spent trying to take accountability and responsibility for problems that are not yours to solve. Now, that's like a little bit of a more rant style video. So if you found that helpful, I'm great, right? If you found that helpful, that's great. If you have any questions or you want me to go deeper into any other topics, on this topic, then please leave a comment, because like I say, with everyone, I am doing personalized video responses, which I will post to the channel. So if you want a little bit of extra coaching like that, and you have a question which is relevant to this discussion, or even semi-relevant to this discussion, please use the comment section below, because I'm more than happy to do some content on that. If you want something which is a little bit more, one-on-one, then I have my one-on-one link to book a call where we can discuss where you are in your journey, how I can help you, and how we can actually go together and move forward in this journey together. Or if that's not right for you, then I will tell that, and maybe I'll recommend you to somebody else. And if you're not ready for any of that, then you know what this channel is, you know the kind of content that I put out. Very practical shadow work guides, very practical kind of self-actualization guides, alongside some more abstract stuff. So stay tuned for that, okay? Thank you for watching.